Hey there, in today's video I'm going to show you how I record my running form using various bits of tech, wearables, cameras and drones. I'm making this video because I was conversing with Bartek and we were both interested in how you would collect data about your running form, and in this video I'm going to focus on observing and recording data, not covering the analysis of the data. As always, this video might be long. There are chapter markers down below so you can skip on through to the bits you might be interested in. Let's get going. The first method to collect data on your running form is to have other people do it for you. It's usually easier when other people do the work. And the most common way is to go to a running store. They film you running on a runway within the store and or on a treadmill. Now the pros are it's usually free and they also do some analysis. The cons are the track is short. Usually it's the length of the store or part of the store. The treadmill, you have limited time, and you can have white coat syndrome where you're under pressure. They're also trying to sell you stuff, and it can be a pressurized environment which doesn't lead to the best results. The next one is to have a friend film your running. Now the pro is it's usually inexpensive. The con is, well, you need a friend. They also need to know what they're doing and run at the same pace and the distance that you are. And friends are great, but if you're on your own, what are you going to do? Let's have a look at some of the tech. Well, I use a lot of data capturing devices. I have a Garmin heart rate monitor. I wear 2 watches. I have an ultrahuman ring. I have a Stryd Footpod. I'm capturing lots of data. But what about data you can visualize? Well, I have lots of cameras, but let's start without them. I use the Stryd Footpods Duo. They clip to both shoes. They sync to my watch. They're easy to run. There's a single stride that will give you the usual metrics, cadence and vertical oscillation, those kinds of things. Lots of various metrics, but the Stryd Duo will also give you 3D footpath analysis. Now Stryd say this about the Duo, and some of this applies to recording and data capturing generally and why you might want to do it. Injury. Track your recovery process through quantifying subtle changes in your footpath as you recover from an injury. Fatigue. Monitor how and when you fatigue in and across your runs so you can tailor your training to combat fatigue. Drills. Quantify and visualize the impact of your drills on your footpath to determine they are providing the intended benefits. Footwear. Observe how different shoe choices reshape your footpath and contribute towards and impact your running. Performance. Visualize your footpath to determine personalized indicators of how your footpath changes as your performance transforms. Prices for Stryd vary and there's discounts in different packages, but as of today they were costing for the Duo €339, 299 US dollars, 279 pounds and 499 Australian dollars. The pro of the Stryd is it's incredibly easy to use. You can track very long distances. Certainly I mentioned marathons, and it is really good for tracking fatigue because you will need a lot of data. The cons are they're relatively expensive and they're harder to analyze than it might first appear. I love the Stryd Duo, find it really easy to use. I don't find it as easy to analyze the data as I think it could be, but in addition to Stryd, there are a lot of other solutions. One of them is filming. An easier solution can be to film yourself. Now you might want to film your running for selfies, for memories, I've done that lots of times, or for reviewing things. But in this video, I'm not going to talk about that kind of filming. I'm going to talk about getting running form data. Before we talk about the cameras, let's talk about location, location, location. Literally, the road, the track, and the treadmill. The road was where I initially started. It has lots of advantages. It's free, there's lots of them. But as you run, you're typically running away from the camera, and the disadvantage is someone may take that camera. I found the track to be really good. You can leave the camera at the side of the track and you can run round and round and round, and usually there's security of the track. There's advantages in that there's repetition, you're going around doing the reps, and there's consistency. The disadvantages are there are usually side profile only. It's very hard to leave the camera on the track and run around. There can be privacy issues and there can be cost of getting to the track. The treadmill has lots of advantages. There's consistency. It's easy to set the different paces and you can set the angles for hills, etc. It's very easy to take rear shots. It's very easy to take, well, front shots are usually possible, but side ones are very easy. The disadvantage is that, again, sometimes there are privacy issues and cost, and sometimes the track, it's not the same as running on the treadmill, and there can be bounce and various surface issues which can skew the data to some extent. I have lots of cameras. You will likely have at least one. You may be considering more. I use an iPhone 15 Pro Max, but most people will have a phone camera. I have various GoPros, an Insta360 Go 2, a DJI Action 2, a DJI Osmo Action Pro 5 and Canon R5. And the higher the frame rates you can get out of your camera, the more data you can get. And the size of the image sensor is crucial. The bigger the sensor, the higher quality the data is. I use a mirrorless camera, Canon R5. I'm not suggesting you do, but I can use it for high quality imagery. That's one of the things I can do. The disadvantage is it's very expensive. Security is always an issue when you bring it anywhere. It's complex to operate, it weighs a lot, and there's very limited runtime. Most people have a phone camera, an iPhone or Android. The pros are that they're cheap. Well, not in themselves. Phones are very expensive, but the chances are you already have one. They're surprisingly good, and I find they're getting better with every iteration. They're portable. I bring one on every run. The disadvantages are that you need accessories to hold them. They don't always, because of their thin, they're not easy to lie by the track and get various angles. And they're awkward to hold when running if you're trying to film yourself with the camera in motion. The iPhone 15 Pro Max, which I use, it's really good. It'll do 4K at 60 frames a second, or the latest one, the 16 Pro Max, will do 4K at 120 frames per second. You'll get 240 frames per second at 1080p out of the current one. My longest recording time is 22 minutes at 1080p. And it's good for checking your running form when you leave the camera in position. You do the moving, you put it outside of the track. And one of the advantages of a track is if you want to focus in on the shoes, just come on the lane closest to the camera. And if you want to focus on your body, go further away. That's typically how I do it. Now, with all of these cameras, you don't need to view them in expensive editing software like Premiere or DaVinci or any of these. You can play them back in QuickTime, frame by frame, and then you can screen record that and you get something like this clip. There'll be something similar in Windows, but I use Apple computers and phones. You will of course notice a difference in the image quality of the Canon R5 compared to the iPhone, but for the purposes of analyzing your running form, it's plenty good enough. And when you record in QuickTime, when you make a screen grab, you can toggle backwards and forwards to your heart's content for analysis. To move on to action cameras, these are two GoPros. I have lots of GoPros. They have great image quality. They have a flat base, so easy to leave on a flat surface. They have great frame rates. They have very many accessories to attach them to various things, magnets, twisty things, all sorts of things to attach them. And you can do a lot of dynamic film running with various poles filming yourself. One of the huge disadvantages is overheating if they're not moving. And if you want to put the camera static by a track, you're not going to be moving. They need airflow. And also with GoPros, there's lots of terrible design things in GoPros. I think I've got 6 of them, but I don't think I'll be buying a GoPro anymore. This is the DJI Action 2. The Pro it's really small, it weighs very little, and it can go onto various mounts on your head, various things. It's also magnetic, so it'll clip to something, and there's various accessories for that. The disadvantage of the Action 2 is it has very limited battery life, and it overheats very quickly. It's fine in the wind, but it's very useful in certain scenarios. I used it for filming the Dingle Marathon, and it is really good in certain scenarios, but for filming your running form, it wouldn't be my first choice. My first choice of action camera would be the DJI Action Pro 5. Conceptually, it's similar to the GoPro in similar sizes. Some of the advantages, the battery life is outstanding. I got 2 hours and 15 minutes of recording in 4K the other day when out running. You won't get overheating, and it'll actually do 960 frames per second. It's via AI, but you will get 960 for super slow motion. It links to a DJI Mic 2, so you can link 2 mics to it. I might do a separate video about that. And if there are any aspects of this tech you want me to delve into in more detail, let me know. But so far, this is actually a really good camera. The one disadvantage is, of course, the cost of these sorts of cameras. They are relatively expensive. Let's talk about flying cameras, otherwise known as drones. Well, this is the cheapest camera here. It's a DJI Neo, costs €199 and dollars, £169 sterling, 299 Australian dollars. It's really simple to fly and really simple to record footage. It's very lightweight. It's lighter than my iPhone. It has 17 minutes of battery. I don't need a tripod. I can just let it hover. Even in wind, it'll give me pretty good results. It'll follow me. So if I want to run on a track, it'll follow me around the track. It can follow me from the side. It can follow me from the front or behind. I don't need to use controllers. I have controllers you can use with this, but you can use voice commands. You can use the iPhone. I took some sample images of the park where I just ran down with this, and I've run, I think, up to 15K with this without noticing any weight or anything like that in my pocket, and you can then take it out here and there. But it is very good. The disadvantage of this is that although it is 4K, the footage isn't as great as you'll get out of other drones. But if you're looking for something to film yourself when running, this is really, really hard to beat. As I said, you don't need tripods, you don't need anything else. Just be careful in leaving it static at a low height, just in case, you know. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. If you did, it would be great if you hit the like button. As always, there'll be lots of stuff in the description below, and I'll happily answer any questions you put into the comments. There'll be a big blue subscribe button popping up there, and some red videos there. Thanks for watching. Until the next video, just keep running along.